against the Democrats. And it would be an absolutely astonishing thing if it does, because this is a seat that's been held by one or other member of the Kennedy family for 56 years. Then it will change the maths in Washington in a small but extremely significant way, because it'll rob the Democrats of their crucial 60th seat in the 100-seat Senate. And without that 60-seat majority, they cannot withstand the wrecking tactics, the filibustering of the Republicans, and that means that all sorts of bits of legislation, including, as you already mentioned, the healthcare reform bill, are in serious jeopardy. That is what is at stake, and that is why this local election, which should have been a formality, has become anything but.
Yeah, national implications in a sec. How's this happened on a local basis? What's happened that the Republicans have got within a whisker?
Well, all sorts of people are asking themselves that, and the Democrats, even before the results are out, frankly, are starting to point the fingers and look around for who to blame. I think it's a couple of things. A lackluster Democratic candidate in Martha Coakley, who perhaps didn't realize until just the other day
has crossed the divide, which very rarely happens directly. You get like Peter Schmeichel going to City, but been to Aston Villa in between. It was bound to happen. Now, also, I think Rooney said something to Tevez as he went up to take the penalty.
He did. I couldn't quite work out what he said.
Usually with Rooney, it's very clear what he says, and we can't repeat it on air. But I think that something was bound to happen, and it
each letter, and afterwards covered them all with flowers. But that was as far as she could go. She waited a long time. She was thoroughly disgusted with herself, and finally she got angry and put rubber bands around A, B, and C and carried them up to Country. Miss Kling, those things you said about agreements, that both partners have rights and obligations, look at this. Anna put her letters on the table. The children ask question after question. Is it my obligation to answer? What rights do I have? Not to answer, Country said. I can't do that. But you have no agreement with them. How do you mean agreement? I mean a promise. You've written to each child only once, isn't that right? And you've made no promises. Well, as it happens, you mean you've written to some of them more than once? What am I supposed to do? They write and they think I'm their friend. Then it is a promise. Country walked over and closed the window. You're trembling, she said. Miss Ameline, sit down. I'll give you a blanket. I don't want one. And I haven't made any promises. I don't know what you mean. Anna gathered up her letters. This wasn't at all what I wanted to talk about, she said. Leave them. Let me read them. I'll try to understand. Later in the evening, they sat opposite each other in the parlour, and Country explained. I don't think this has to be so hard. The children have things to ask and things to tell, and what they all want is roughly the same. You could have a form letter, a prepared text in photostat. When you need to vary it, you can add a postscript, and of course a personal signature. Photostat, form letter, it's not my style. And what happens if siblings write to me, or children in the same class in school, and they compare their letters? I can't possibly keep track of all the names and addresses. The card catalogue will take care of that, and eventually you ought to have a secretary. A secretary? I repeated, a secretary? Is that what you think, Miss Kling? And what, for example, would she write to all the sad cases? For that matter, you've mixed up my piles. There was A, B, and C. Now I don't know which is which. How would a secretary answer, "Dear Miss Emmeline, what should I do with my parents?" Or, "Why does everybody get invited except me?" And so forth, on and on. It's me they're asking, not anyone else. And for that matter, they're all unhappy in their own way, and it seems to me they have a right to be. I wouldn't be so sure, Guthrie said dryly. Miss Emmeline, I've read all these very carefully, and I can only conclude that A, B and C could all be included under a single heading. They all want something. For instance, comfort, and they want it as quickly as possible because it's very urgent. These letters could in fact be seen as small attempts at extortion. No, don't interrupt. Their letters are awkward and misspelled, and so they're touching and give you a bad conscience. But they'll learn. They'll get more